You are stuck in traffic, completely powerless to move forward. That tightness in your chest, the simmering frustration, it all feels so automatic. But what if that feeling was a choice you could unmake? 2,000 years ago, a former slave named Epictetus laid out a simple mental rule that can dismantle that frustration in an instant. He said, "Some things are within our power, while others are not." This is the Stoic idea of control, and it is not about giving up. It is about reclaiming your mind from the chaos of the outside world. By the end of this, you will have a clear way to mentally reframe any daily annoyance, from a difficult comment to a major setback, turning your anxiety into action. We will explore how this ancient key unlocks a profound question. Epictetus, who began his life in challenging circumstances, opened his famous handbook with this very idea. He wrote, "Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Not within our power are our body, property, reputation, command, and, in a word, whatever are not our own actions." This division is not a call to apathy or surrender. It is a strategic decision to invest your energy where it can actually make a difference. Think about an upcoming outdoor event you are looking forward to. You cannot control whether it rains. Wishing for sun, worrying about clouds, or feeling upset at a forecast are all reactions directed at something outside your power. But what is within your power is your preparation, your decision to bring a coat or an umbrella, and your choice to find joy in the event regardless of the weather. Your mental effort is then focused on a sphere where you can actually affect change. This shifts your role from a passive observer of circumstance to an active architect of your response. So take a moment right now and bring to mind 3 common concerns that occupied your thoughts this week. Perhaps it was anticipation over a work evaluation, a difference of opinion with a family member, or thinking about a possible travel delay. Now apply the dichotomy. Which of these thoughts were focused on things truly within your control, your own effort and attitude, and which were spent on external outcomes or other people's choices you cannot command? This simple act of sorting is the first step in easing the hold that daily challenges can have over you. How much of your mental energy is spent trying to change things you ultimately cannot? We often operate under a myth of total control, a belief that if we just worry enough, plan enough, or insist enough, we can command the world around us. Modern culture frequently reinforces this illusion, suggesting that with the right app, the right routine, or the right mindset, you can master every outcome. But the Stoics observed a different, more fundamental truth about the nature of life. The world operates on its own terms, and much of what happens is simply not up to us. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This is not passive resignation. It is a clear-eyed acceptance of reality as it is, which then frees you to act effectively within the small domain that is truly yours. Consider the common experience of hoping to guide a loved one's life path. You might spend immense emotional energy wishing they would make different choices, perhaps regarding their career or their relationships. You cannot control their decisions, that lies outside your power, but what is within your power is your own reaction. You can choose to offer support without judgment, to listen with an open heart, and to model the values you hold dear. By shifting your focus from their choices to your own conduct, you exchange frustration for compassionate action. Think of one area in your own life where you find it difficult to step back. It could be a project at work where you manage every detail, or a personal goal that depends on factors beyond your command. What is the emotional cost of that effort? Notice the tension it creates, the mental noise, the peace that feels just out of reach. Recognizing this cost is the first step toward choosing a different way, a way that aligns your efforts with what you can actually influence. While the external world is chaotic, you are the absolute ruler of your own mind. This is the profound territory of internal sovereignty that the Stoics identified as our only true possession. Everything else, from our physical health to our social standing, can be influenced by circumstance, but our capacity to form our own judgments, to choose our intentions, and to direct our voluntary actions, this is a fortress no external event can enter without our consent. The Roman philosopher Seneca beautifully captured this idea when he wrote that a wise person's mind is like a fortified citadel, for a person's only safe and unassailable stronghold is their own reason. This is not a metaphor for isolation, but for unshakable self-possession. Your character, your integrity, and your values are not subject to the whims of fortune. They are built from the inside out. Consider the sharp contrast between this inner kingdom and the external world we often chase. Society tells us to seek validation through promotions, possessions, and praise. Yet the Stoics point out that these are all things not up to us. A promotion can be given or changed by a manager. Possessions can be lost or broken. The praise of others is fickle and entirely outside your command. Investing your sense of self in these externals is like building a house on shifting sand. Your inner world, however, is the solid ground. It is the one place where you have complete authority. Think of a scenario where someone directs an insult toward you. The words themselves are just sounds in the air, an external event you did not control. The sting, the frustration, the sense of unease, these only arise if you internally agree with the judgment that the remark is true or damaging. You hold the power to reject that judgment. You can choose to see the comment as a reflection of the other person's state of mind, not a verdict on your worth. By refusing to grant it authority over your inner state, you disarm it completely. The insult loses its power because you have not confirmed it within your own mind. Can you recall a recent moment when you faced a difficult event, perhaps a challenging critique or a plan that fell apart, and you successfully managed your internal reaction? Maybe you felt the initial surge of frustration, but then consciously chose to focus on what you could learn or how you could adapt. In that moment, you were exercising your sovereignty. You were tending to the only garden you truly own. This practice does not make you indifferent to the world. It makes you resilient within it. In Stoicism, an obstacle is not a roadblock, it is the path itself. This is the art of the turning, a mental pivot where what stands against you becomes the very thing that strengthens you. The Stoics saw every hindrance as a chance to practice a specific virtue, whether it is patience, courage, or creativity. This practice is the ultimate application of the dichotomy of control. You cannot control the obstacle, but your response to it is entirely your own, and that is where your power lies. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced immense challenges leading an empire, put it simply, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He understood that a difficulty is not a signal to stop, but an invitation to exercise your inner resources. Think of a project at work that hits an unexpected delay. The delay itself is outside your control, a classic external, but your reaction is not. You can choose to see this setback as a training ground. It is an opportunity to practice patience instead of frustration. It is a chance to improve your planning skills or to foster better communication within your team. The obstacle, by its very presence, gives you the material you need to build resilience. So bring to mind one current obstacle in your own life. It might be a personal goal that feels out of reach or a daily frustration that tests your calm. Now ask yourself this: what specific virtue could this situation help me develop? If it is a difficult conversation you are avoiding, it could be a training ground for courage. If it is a repetitive task, it could be a practice in mindfulness and diligence. By reframing the challenge in this way, you stop fighting the external event and start cultivating your inner world, transforming a source of anxiety into a tool for your own growth. That surge of frustration in traffic feels automatic, a reflex you did not choose. Yet the Stoics would argue this is where your greatest power lies, in the brief but critical space between what happens and how you respond. The dichotomy of control provides a mental tool to step into that gap and insert reason before emotion takes command. Epictetus offered a foundational insight into this process when he wrote, "People are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them." The event itself, the car moving into your lane, is neutral until you assign it a meaning. You might see it as an inconvenience or a disruption to your rhythm, and it is that perspective, not the event, which sparks the feeling. By remembering that the other driver's action is outside your control, you can detach from the need to react to it. Your internal judgment, however, is entirely within your power. You can choose to see the same event as a small, passing moment on a long journey, thereby softening its emotional weight. Consider the experience of receiving thoughtful feedback at work. The initial reaction can feel pointed, perhaps stirring defensiveness or disappointment. This is the raw, impulsive response, but if you apply the dichotomy, you can pause. The feedback itself, the words shared, is an external event. You did not control its delivery. Your power resides in how you interpret it. You can choose to see it not as a statement on your value, but as a collection of observations. This perspective transforms the input from something personal into useful insight, some of which you may reflect upon and some you may set aside. The emotion settles, and you regain the clarity to decide your next steps with intention. Think of a recent moment when you had a strong emotional reaction, perhaps to a changed plan or a direct comment from someone. Can you identify the automatic judgment you placed on that event? Did you interpret the change as a sign you were not considered? Did you hear the direct words as pointing to a broader concern? By noticing that assigned meaning, you begin to loosen its grip, creating the space to choose a different, more grounded view. What if your sense of worth was completely independent of other people's opinions? We spend so much of our lives seeking approval, hoping for a kind word from a manager, craving positive responses to a social media post, or feeling unsettled by a piece of feedback. This desire for outside validation places the most important part of you, your self-regard, into the hands of others. It makes you emotionally vulnerable because you have handed over the keys to your inner peace to a world you cannot control. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus pointed directly to this pattern when he said, "If you accomplish something good with hard work, the labor passes quickly, but the good endures. If you do something you regret in pursuit of pleasure, the pleasure passes quickly, but the regret endures." His focus is entirely on the lasting quality of your own actions, not the temporary reaction of an audience. The satisfaction comes from knowing you acted with integrity, not from the applause that may or may not follow. Consider the common experience of sharing something online. You craft a message, post a photo, or express a thought, and then you wait. Your attention shifts from the value of what you created to the external measure of its reception. Did people appreciate it? Did they pass it along? Did anyone offer a different view? This entire cycle of anticipation and reaction is focused on things not up to you, the perspectives of others. Now contrast that with the quiet peace of creating something purely for its own sake. Perhaps you write in a personal journal, sketch a drawing no one will see, or tend to a garden. The act itself is its own reward because your sense of fulfillment is drawn from the integrity of the effort, a quality that remains entirely within your power. Today, try performing one small act of integrity without any need for recognition. It could be as simple as completing a task to the best of your ability when no one is watching, or offering a kind word to someone with no expectation of thanks. Notice the different quality of that experience, a calm and self-contained strength that does not rise or fall with the opinions of the crowd. This is the beginning of building a self that is unshakable, not because it is praised, but because it is grounded from within. Stoicism does not promise a fair world, but it does offer a way to navigate an unfair one with character. This is perhaps the most challenging application of the dichotomy of control, because our sense of justice feels so deeply personal. When we feel wronged, the instinct is to meet the unfairness with a storm of internal resistance, to replay the event again and again in our minds, feeding a frustration that changes nothing about what has already happened. The Stoic shift is to separate two distinct responses. The first is the effort for what is right, an action firmly within your control. The second is the lingering disappointment over an outcome you cannot change, a reaction that only drains your own peace. Marcus Aurelius, who faced constant political intrigue and personal betrayal, regularly counseled himself with this reminder: when you are troubled by someone's actions, immediately consider what view of good and evil led them to it. For when you see that, you will feel understanding, not surprise or anger. This is not about overlooking unkind behavior, but about recognizing its origin, which allows you to respond from a place of reason rather than raw emotion. Imagine a scenario at work where a project you led succeeds, but a colleague receives the primary credit from a manager. The unfairness of the situation is a fact, an external event you did not control and likely cannot immediately reverse. Your initial reaction might be a wave of frustration and a desire to confront everyone involved, but the dichotomy asks you to pause and sort: what is truly within your power here? You cannot control the manager's perception or your colleague's actions. You can, however, control your own conduct. You can choose to document your contributions calmly for future discussions. You can decide to have a constructive conversation about team recognition. And you can absolutely control whether you let this event dim your passion for your work. The frustration is the trap. It is an internal storm directed at an unchangeable external, draining your energy and focus. The constructive action, however small, is your power in motion. It preserves your integrity and moves you forward, even if the external outcome remains imperfect. Think back to a past situation you would label as unfair. It could be a personal disagreement, a professional setback, or a broken promise. Now apply the mental sorting of the dichotomy. In that moment of hardship, what aspects were genuinely within your sphere of influence to address? Perhaps it was your ability to communicate your perspective clearly, to set a boundary, or simply to choose how you would carry the experience forward without letting it define you. Identifying that small, powerful sphere is the first step toward reclaiming your peace from any past event, transforming a story of difficulty into one of resilience. That weight on your shoulders, it might be the burden of trying to carry the whole world. This is the exhaustion that comes from clinging tightly to outcomes you can never command. The Stoic practice of letting go is not about giving up on your goals. It is about releasing the internal struggle against reality itself. This is where the dichotomy of control blossoms into a deeper, more serene state of mind the ancients called Amor Fati, a love of fate. It is the decision to embrace what happens, not with resignation, but with the understanding that every event, especially the difficult ones, are the necessary raw materials for building your character. The philosopher Epictetus offered a simple but profound mental shift to achieve this. He said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." This is the ultimate application of the mental sorting we have been exploring. You stop fighting the current of life and learn to swim with it, using its very force to propel you forward. Consider the perspective of an athlete in training. They can control their daily discipline, their focus during practice, their nutrition, and their recovery. They pour their entire being into the effort, which is their domain. but on the day of the competition, they cannot control the skill of their opponent, a sudden change in the weather, or a single referee's call. The final score lies outside their power. An athlete trapped in the outcome will be consumed by anxiety and in defeat by frustration. But an athlete who practices Amor Fati embraces the entire event. They love the race for the chance to test their limits. They love the challenge of a strong opponent for pushing them to be better, and they accept the result as the necessary conclusion of that day's complex tapestry. Their peace comes from knowing they controlled what was theirs to control, their effort, and they welcome the rest as part of the journey. So bring to mind one specific future outcome you are concerned about right now. It could be the result of a job application, the resolution of a health matter, or the reaction of a person you need to have a meaningful conversation with. Now, for just a moment, mentally hand that concern over. Acknowledge that the final result is not yours to command. Your power does not lie in forcing that specific outcome, but in how you navigate the path toward it and how you respond to whatever emerges. Feel the slight relief, the small release of tension as you place that burden down. This is the serenity of letting go, the quiet understanding that your true strength was never about controlling the world, but about mastering your own role within it. What if the problem is not that you lack what you want, but that you persistently want what you cannot truly possess? Our culture celebrates relentless desire, pushing us to chase after promotions, possessions, and praise as if they were the ultimate prizes. Yet this constant reaching for externals is a source of deep, persistent frustration, because we are trying to grasp things that are, by their nature, outside our command. The Stoics proposed a radical solution to fundamentally retrain our desires themselves. They taught that we should only desire what is virtuous and within our power, aligning our wants with nature and reason. This shifts the entire goal from acquiring external rewards to cultivating an internal character that cannot be taken from you. The philosopher Seneca drew a crucial distinction between a fleeting wish and a rational desire. He wrote, "A wish is a wanting of something without the reasoned judgment that it is good to have it." In other words, a wish is often an impulsive reach for an external object, while a rational desire is a considered choice to pursue something truly good, which for the Stoics always meant acting with virtue. Consider the common desire for a promotion at work. The promotion itself is an external. It depends on the decision of others, the state of the company, and factors you cannot fully control. Wanting it intensely places your happiness in a precarious position, hostage to an outcome you do not command. Now, contrast that with the desire to do excellent work. This is an internal desire completely within your power. You can choose to be diligent, creative, and collaborative regardless of the title or salary that may or may not follow. The desire for excellence is a rational desire because its fulfillment depends solely on your own choices and efforts. It aligns with the virtue of doing your best, and it brings a satisfaction that no manager's decision can erase. Bring to mind one strong desire you are holding right now. It could be for a particular relationship to heal, for a financial goal to be met, or for a specific recognition. Now apply the Stoic test. Is the fulfillment of this desire something entirely within your control, or does its realization depend on the actions of other people or the roll of fortune's dice? If it lies outside your power, notice the subtle tension that comes with that attachment. Then, consider what rational desire you could cultivate in its place. Perhaps instead of desiring the healed relationship, you desire to act with compassion and integrity in all your interactions. Instead of desiring the financial outcome, you desire to manage your resources with wisdom and discipline today. This is not giving up on your goals, it is changing your focus to the only part of the journey you truly own. By mastering your desires in this way, you exchange a chain of disappointment for a wellspring of inner freedom. Anxiety is often just our mind trying to control a future that has not happened yet. We spin stories about outcomes we dread, rehearsing conversations and imagining obstacles, as if this mental effort could somehow bend reality to our will. But the Stoic idea of what we can and cannot control offers a clear exit from this exhausting loop. You cannot shape the future event itself, but you can shape the preparations you make for it right now. The Roman thinker Seneca touched directly on this mental weight when he wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The future you worry about is a phantom, a story your mind is telling, and that story is the true source of your unease, not the event itself." Consider the process of preparing for a job interview. The outcome, whether you receive an offer, lies in the hands of the interviewers. It depends on the other candidates, the company's hidden needs, and a dozen other factors you cannot see or command. Fixating on that final result is to invest your energy in the external category, the realm of things not up to you. This creates anxiety, but what is within your power is strikingly concrete. You can research the company thoroughly, you can prepare thoughtful questions to ask, you can practice articulating your experience clearly, you can choose your attire and plan your route to arrive on time. Each of these actions is a present moment task that belongs to you. By shifting your focus from the uncertain outcome to the certain preparation, you trade the turbulence of worry for the steady ground of purposeful action. Take a moment and bring to mind one specific future concern that has been occupying your thoughts. It might be about a medical test result, an important presentation, or the stability of a relationship. Now take out a piece of paper or open a note on your device. On one side, write down the concern itself, the future outcome you are thinking about. Look at it and acknowledge that this result is not within your direct control. Then, on the other side, list every single practical, present moment action you can take that relates to it. If it is the medical test, your list might include scheduling the appointment, gathering your health history, and following your doctor's pre-test instructions. If it is the presentation, your actions are to create the slides, rehearse your delivery, and test your equipment. This simple act of writing physically moves the concern from the abstract realm of thought into the tangible world of action. It reminds you that your power does not lie in controlling what happens tomorrow, but in mastering what you do today. An insult is just a sound. It only becomes a weapon if you hand it the ammunition. This is the heart of the Stoic response to criticism, a direct application of the mental sorting we have been exploring. The words someone speaks, the opinions they hold, these are external events. They belong to the other person, existing in the category of things not up to us. The sting we feel is not delivered by the words themselves, but by our own internal agreement with them. We hand over the ammunition by confirming the judgment within our own mind. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reflected deeply on this internal power, writing in his private journal, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your inner world takes on the hue of what you consistently choose to focus on and believe. If you constantly accept the negative views of others as truth, your spirit becomes colored by their perspective. But if you guard your own judgment, you retain the power to choose a different color entirely. History offers a clear example in the philosopher Socrates, who faced frequent public questioning and disagreement for his unconventional methods. Rather than responding with anger or defensiveness, he was known for his profound calm. When met with harsh words, he would often respond with gentle inquiry or even acknowledge parts of the critique if they held a grain of truth, all while maintaining an unshakable inner peace. His focus remained on his own principles and the integrity of his mission. The insults themselves were like weather passing by, unable to disrupt the climate of his mind because he refused to grant them entry. He understood that another person's opinion was their property, and he had no need to make it his own. Think back to a moment when you received a pointed comment or a strong critique. Recall the initial heat of the reaction. Now apply the mental sort. The other person's decision to speak those words was their action, an external event you did not control. Your power resided entirely in the next moment, in your internal judgment of what those words meant. Did you assign them a weight they did not have to carry? By re-evaluating that past event not as a personal attack, but as the external view of another individual, you can begin to drain it of its lingering power. The sound has long since faded, but the choice of what color it dyes your soul remains yours to make. We often hold tightly to what we have out of fear it might slip away, but what if regularly imagining its absence was the key to feeling more secure and grateful? The Stoics developed a powerful mental exercise called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of difficulties, not to dwell on sadness, but to gently test our attachments and discover what remains unshakable when external things are set aside. This practice is a direct application of the dichotomy of control, training us to see clearly what is truly ours and what is merely on loan from fortune. The philosopher Seneca advised his friend Lucilius with these words, "He who has learned to let go has unlearned how to be a slave." What he meant was that by accepting the potential absence of everything external, we reclaim our inner freedom. He encouraged us to value things as if we might lose them, and to value ourselves as if we will always remain. This is not pessimism, it is a profound inoculation against the anxiety of attachment. Consider your current job or primary role. It provides income, purpose, and social connection, all things we naturally appreciate. Now, vividly imagine for a moment that it is gone. The position ends, the routine vanishes. Feel the initial disorientation and concern, but then look deeper. What remains of you without that title? Your skills, your resilience, your capacity to learn and adapt, these are your internal properties. Your character, your work ethic, your ability to connect with others, these are not revoked with a notice. The exercise reveals that while the external role was valuable, the core tools you use to succeed in it are still firmly within your possession, ready to be applied elsewhere. This realization does not make you careless about your work. It makes you confident within it, because your sense of value is no longer solely tied to the external post. Take the next 2 minutes to try this. Bring to mind a valued possession, perhaps your home or a cherished object. Close your eyes and vividly imagine it is gone. Sit with the feeling that arises, then gently ask yourself, what is left of me? Your memories, your relationships, your capacity for joy and creation, your essential self, these are the lasting things. By voluntarily visiting this mental space, you strengthen the understanding that your peace was never in the thing itself, but in the inner resources that no external event can truly take from you. That red light is not wasting your time, it is offering you a moment to practice a virtue. This is the Stoic pivot in action, transforming a daily irritant into a training ground for your character. We often interpret delays as thieves stealing our precious minutes, but the framework of control asks us to see them differently. The delay itself, whether a long line, a traffic jam, or a postponed meeting, is an external event completely outside your command. Your rising impatience, however, is an internal judgment, a story you are telling yourself about the situation, and that story is something you have the power to rewrite. The philosopher Epictetus pointed to the source of our peace when he noted that happiness begins where anxiety and fear end. Your frustration in a delay is a form of anxiety, a fear of lost time or a disrupted plan, and it ends the moment you withdraw the judgment that the situation is inherently bad. Consider the experience of a flight delay. You cannot control the maintenance issue or the weather holding the plane on the tarmac. Fuming at the gate, constantly checking the status board, and complaining to the staff are all reactions focused on the external, draining your energy without moving the aircraft an inch. But what is within your power is vast. You can choose to see this unexpected hour as a gift of time. You can pull out a book you have been meaning to read. You can use the quiet to reflect on your week, or you can simply practice observing the world around you with curiosity. The delay has not changed, but your relationship to it has shifted from one of resistance to one of acceptance and even potential use. Think about one common source of impatience in your own week. Perhaps it is the slow-moving line at the grocery store or the recorded music during a customer service call. For the next occurrence, plan your stoic response in advance. Decide that when it happens, you will not fight the reality of the wait. Instead, you will take one deep breath and use those 60 seconds to be fully present, to notice your surroundings, or to simply rest your mind. In that small choice, you are not just waiting, you are building a more resilient and patient self. In a disagreement, would you rather be right or would you rather be at peace? This single question can completely reframe a tense conversation. When conflict arises, our instinct is often to win the argument, to prove our point and correct the other person's view. Yet this very instinct pulls us directly into the external side of the dichotomy, trying to control something that is not ours to command, another person's perspective or feelings. The Stoic shift is to turn your attention inward, to the one part of the exchange you truly own, your own response and your understanding of the event. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius offered a guiding light for these difficult moments when he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." In a conflict, the quality of your thoughts determines whether you escalate the tension or become an anchor of calm. Consider a common conversation between partners. One person arrives home later than expected, and the other, feeling concerned, greets them with a direct remark. The immediate, automatic reaction is to reply with a defense or a counterstatement, launching a cycle of frustration. But in that critical pause, one person remembers the dichotomy. They cannot control their partner's tone or initial feelings of concern. What they can control is their own interpretation and their next words. Instead of hearing the remark as a personal challenge, they choose to see it as an expression of care. They take a breath and respond not with a defense, but with an acknowledgement, saying something like, "It sounds like you were concerned. I am sorry for the stress that caused." This does not mean they are admitting fault for the lateness, an external event that may have been beyond their control, but they are taking command of their own conduct. By refusing to confirm the negative interpretation, they drain the situation of its combustible energy and create space for a real conversation to begin. Think of one recurring situation in your own life, perhaps with a colleague, a family member, or a friend. Take a moment to mentally map it out. What specific elements of this situation are genuinely within your control? You likely cannot control the other person's mood, their past experiences, or the words they choose to use. Your power resides in your preparation for the conversation, your ability to listen without immediately planning a reply, and your choice to respond with integrity rather than reactivity. Focusing your effort here in your own small but powerful domain is how you transform a source of ongoing friction into an opportunity for personal growth and perhaps for genuine peace. The world itself is neutral. The story you tell about it is what creates your experience of difficulty or your peace. This is the foundational layer of the Stoic framework, the precise mechanism that gives the dichotomy of control its transformative power. Every event that reaches you is first just raw data, an impression. The downpour that starts as you lay out the picnic blanket is simply water falling from the sky. It is your next, almost instantaneous internal action that colors the experience. The Stoics called this action assent, the moment you either approve or disapprove of the initial impression. This act of judgment is the primary internal lever you control. You can assent to the thought that this rain is a major inconvenience, a disruption to your plans, and frustration will follow. Or you can withhold that assent, observe the rain without adding a dramatic narrative, and simply begin gathering the basket to move indoors. Epictetus pinpointed this process when he wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The rain did not create the disturbance, your approved judgment about the rain did. This is where you truly reclaim your authority, not by stopping the storm, but by choosing not to be stormed inside your own mind. Think of a minor annoyance from your own day, perhaps a loud noise from a neighbor or a spilled drink on a clean counter. Your first impression might be one of irritation. But in the space before you react, practice withholding your full assent from that initial feeling. Observe the noise simply as a sound, the spill as a temporary state of liquid. Then consciously apply a different, more neutral judgment. Perhaps the noise is a reminder that you share a community, or the spill is a small prompt for mindfulness as you clean it. By changing the story, you change the entire emotional experience, transforming a moment of frustration into a quiet exercise in inner sovereignty. The past is a closed book. Your only power is in how you read its lessons today. When you find yourself replaying a difficult conversation or a personal failure, you are attempting the impossible, trying to edit pages that have already been printed and bound. This rumination is a form of struggling with what is firmly, completely outside your control. The Stoics saw this clearly, observing that to be troubled by what is done is to hand your present peace over to a memory. Seneca captured the nature of this habit when he wrote that a person who lacks wisdom is troubled by the past, while a wise person learns from it and is at peace. The event itself is fixed, an external that has already happened, but your judgment of it, the meaning you assign to it in this very moment, that remains yours to command. Picture someone who made a significant professional error years ago, a choice that led them to leave a valued position. They are revisited by it, their mind returning to that moment in a loop of reflection and self-evaluation. They are trying to control the uncontrollable, to undo what is already done. The Stoic shift is to accept the immutability of that event. It happened. This acceptance is not an approval of the mistake, but a clear-eyed acknowledgement of reality. This very act of acceptance is what unlocks their power. Freed from the exhausting effort of fighting a memory, they can now ask the only productive question: what did I learn from this experience that can guide my actions today? Perhaps the lesson was about the importance of attention to detail, or the need for clearer communication with a team. That lesson is a piece of wisdom, a new internal resource they now possess. They can then choose to act with greater diligence and clarity in their current work, transforming the past experience from a source of difficulty into a teacher of virtue. Bring to mind one past regret that still holds a slight charge for you. It does not have to be a major event, perhaps a word you wish you had not said or an opportunity you let pass by. Now apply the mental sort. The event itself is in the external category, a part of history you cannot change. Your power lies entirely in the present. What is one single, clear lesson you can take from that experience? It might be a lesson about your own boundaries, your communication style, or what you truly value. Identify that lesson, write it down if you wish, and then, in your mind, symbolically place the regret itself down. You are not erasing the memory, you are simply ceasing to struggle with it. You are choosing to carry forward the wisdom it offered and leaving the weight of the struggle behind. This is how you close the book on a chapter, not by forgetting it, but by understanding that its true value was never in the difficulty, but in the insight it left for you to use today. Success in Stoic terms has nothing to do with winning the race. It is found in the quality of your stride, the integrity of your effort, and the character you display as you run. This is the virtue of action over outcome, a principle that flows directly from the dichotomy of control. Your focused effort is your domain, a territory you command completely. The final result, however, is often shaped by countless external factors you cannot govern. When you shift your primary goal from achieving a specific outcome to performing the right action for its own sake, you sever the chain that binds your self-worth to fortune's whims. This is liberation from the fear of failure, because failure in the conventional sense becomes irrelevant. You have already succeeded by acting with excellence. The philosopher Epictetus used the perfect analogy for this. He advised us to be like the runner in a stadium who focuses entirely on their own lane, running their absolute best race. They do not waste energy looking sideways to trip a competitor or to gauge the crowd's reaction. Their entire world narrows to their own motion, their own breath, their own disciplined form. The final placement on the podium is not theirs to decide, but the purity of their effort is. Consider an artist spending months on an intricate sculpture. Their control is absolute during the creative process, from selecting the material to making each deliberate cut. They pour their skill and vision into the work, an action completely within their power. The moment the piece is displayed in a gallery, however, their control ends. The public's interpretation, the critic's review, the final sale price, these are all external events. If the artist's satisfaction depended on universal praise or a high bid, they would be perpetually anxious. But if their fulfillment comes from the knowledge that they executed their craft to the best of their ability, then they carry a quiet, unshakable confidence regardless of the outside world's noise. Their success was secured in the studio long before the first viewer arrived. Today, choose one specific task you will perform. It could be a work assignment, a household chore, or a conversation you need to have. Make a conscious commitment to do this one thing well, with full attention and integrity. For the duration of that task, practice completely disregarding the potential outcome. Do not think about the grade you might receive, the thanks you may or may not get, or how it will be perceived. Pour your effort into the action itself, as if the doing were the only thing that mattered. Notice the different quality of your focus, the calm that replaces the pressure. This is the taste of a success that no external event can ever take from you. Pain is inevitable, but your relationship with that pain is a matter of philosophy. The sharp sting of a cut, the deep ache of tired muscles, these sensations are signals from the body, raw data arriving at the doorstep of your mind. The Stoic framework offers a powerful separation here, one that can transform your experience of physical hardship. You may not control the initial pain signal itself, an external event governed by the body's nerves. But your judgment of that signal, your internal narrative about its meaning, and the attitude you adopt in response, these are territories you command completely. Marcus Aurelius, who frequently managed his own health challenges, wrote directly to this point, reminding himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. The pain is an impression, but the cry of struggle is a story you choose to tell about it. Consider the experience of a persistent headache. The throbbing sensation is present, a fact of your current reality. The automatic reaction is to tense your entire body, to feel frustrated, and to mentally resist the discomfort. This reaction, however, is a choice, an assent to the judgment that this feeling is an unwelcome interruption. The Stoic shift is to observe the sensation with a quiet curiosity, to note its location and its rhythm without adding the layer of internal protest. You can acknowledge the headache while simultaneously focusing your will on the task at hand, or simply on the steadiness of your breath. The discomfort may remain, but its power to dominate your inner world is diminished because you have withdrawn the fuel of your mental struggle. The same principle applies to the burn of strenuous exercise. The sensation in your muscles is a physiological reality. You can interpret it as a sign of your limits, a reason to stop, or you can choose to see it as a testament to your effort, a feeling that accompanies growth. Your mind, by reframing the narrative, turns the sensation from an obstacle into an ally. For the next minor discomfort you feel, perhaps an itch or a chill from a cool breeze, try a small experiment. Instead of immediately scratching or shifting to make it stop, pause for just 10 seconds. Observe the sensation with detachment, as if you were a scientist studying a curious phenomenon. Notice its qualities without labeling it as good or bad. In that brief space, you are not just feeling a sensation, you are practicing the art of mental sovereignty, discovering that you are far more than the temporary feelings of the body you inhabit. What if financial security had less to do with your bank account and more to do with your mindset? Society often equates money with safety, but the Stoics offered a radical reclassification of wealth itself. They called it a preferred indifferent. This means it is natural to prefer having resources over lacking them, as they can provide comfort and enable us to help others. Yet, in the final calculation of a life well lived, wealth is indifferent. It does not determine your virtue, your character, or your capacity for happiness. Your true worth is internal, built from resources that no market shift can devalue. Seneca explored this relationship deeply, writing, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Scarcity, in the Stoic sense, is a condition of endless wanting, a state of mind that can exist regardless of the numbers in your account. The person who has mastered their desires is truly rich, while the one who is ruled by them remains in need, even amidst great material wealth. Your character and your resourcefulness are internal qualities, entirely within your command. They are the tools you use to navigate any financial circumstance, from abundance to challenge. Consider the anxiety that can accompany a volatile stock market. For someone whose peace is tied to their portfolio value, every dip is a personal concern, a tremor in their foundation. They are focused on the external, on numbers they cannot ultimately control. Now, picture an alternative. Someone else with the same investments focuses instead on their own prudence. They control their spending habits, their diligent work ethic, and their commitment to making sound decisions with the information available. When the market falls, they feel the practical concern, but their inner peace is not shattered. Their foundation is their character, not their capital. They remain calm because their self-worth was never stored in that external account. This is the power of treating wealth as a preferred indifferent. You use it without being used by it. So take a moment and ask yourself, separate from every advertisement and social expectation, what does enough truly mean for you? Not the number you are told to chase, but the point where your basic needs are met and your mind is free to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your relationships, your contribution. Defining that point for yourself is the first step toward a freedom that no economic cycle can ever disrupt. Contentment is not a state of having everything you want, but of wanting everything you have and can control. This is the natural destination of the Stoic path, a profound shift from craving external validations to appreciating the internal resources you already command. The dichotomy of control guides this shift by clearly defining the only true source of the good life, a life of virtue. Your character, your integrity, and your perspective are not distant goals to be achieved. They are always accessible, always within your power to exercise in this very moment. The philosopher Epictetus framed this inner wealth with striking clarity, writing, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Peace is found not in the abundance of what you own, but in the quiet mastery of what you desire. Imagine a person at the end of a simple, unremarkable day. They woke early, completed their work with focus, shared a genuine conversation with a friend, and took a quiet walk in the evening air. Nothing extraordinary happened, no windfall or grand achievement. Yet they feel a deep and quiet satisfaction. This feeling does not come from what they acquired, but from how they navigated the day. They are content because their focus remained on what they could control. Their diligence in their tasks, their attentiveness in the conversation, their appreciation for the cool breeze. Their sense of fulfillment is drawn from the well of their own actions, a well that never runs dry. So take a quiet moment and look around you right now. What are 3 things within your absolute control that you can feel grateful for in this instant? Perhaps it is your ability to take the next deliberate breath, your capacity to choose kindness in your next interaction, or the simple power of your attention to focus on these words. These are not small things, they are the fundamental elements of a contented life, always available, always yours to command. The river of life flows on, and its current is change itself. Stoicism teaches us not to stand on the bank and demand the water flow backward, but to learn how to swim with its natural direction. Resisting the inevitable transformation of the world is a profound form of struggling with the uncontrollable, a sure path to exhaustion. Your power does not lie in stopping the river, but in mastering your ability to navigate its waters through acceptance and skillful adaptation. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this fundamental law, writing, "The universe is transformation, our life is what our thoughts make it." Your experience of life is not shaped by the changes themselves, which are external events, but by the opinion you hold about them, which is your internal domain. Consider the experience of a major company restructuring. The old organizational chart, the familiar routines, the way things have always been, are all swept away by decisions made far from your desk. Focusing only on what is gone, expressing frustration about new leadership, or holding tightly to the memory of the old system is to direct your energy toward the external, toward events you cannot reverse. This is like trying to rebuild a sandcastle as the tide comes in. But what is within your power is your own capacity to adapt. You can choose to see the restructuring as an opportunity to learn new skills, to demonstrate flexibility, and to build new relationships within the emerging structure. Your focus shifts from the uncontrollable change to the controllable response, transforming a period of uncertainty into a proving ground for your own resilience. Bring to mind one significant change you are currently navigating in your own life. It could be a shift in a relationship, an alteration in your health, or a new phase in your career. Now apply the mental sort. The change itself is the external event, the river's current. Your internal power lies in your next move. What is one specific mindset you can adopt, or one new skill you can begin to learn that would help you adapt to this new reality? By focusing your effort here, you are no longer a passive object being carried by the current, but an active participant, steering your own course through the ever-changing waters of existence. What if you could vaccinate yourself against life's small challenges? The Stoics had a practice for that, a training approach known as voluntary discomfort. This is not about seeking out pain, but about occasionally choosing a manageable hardship to show yourself something important, that your peace and happiness are resilient enough to flourish even when things are not ideal. It is a direct, physical way to apply the idea of focusing on what you can control, reminding you that your comfort is a preference, not a requirement for your well-being. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus strongly supported this kind of training. He said, "How can a person become temperate if he only knows how to live in luxury and has no experience of living otherwise?" His point was that by willingly experiencing small lacks, we build a kind of resilience to the worry of losing our comforts. We learn that we are far more capable than we thought. Consider the simple act of taking a cool shower. The initial feeling is a raw sensation, an external event of temperature. Your automatic impulse is to step away, to turn the knob back to warm. But in that moment, you have a choice. You can exercise your power over your own judgment. You can choose to stand under the cool water and observe your breath, noticing the physical feeling without adding a story of distress. The discomfort is real, but your struggle with it is optional. When you step out, you carry a quiet sense of empowerment, not because you enjoyed the cool water, but because you confirmed that your composure is stronger than a passing physical sensation. This small success trains your mind for bigger challenges, for the inevitable days when life presents its own version of a cool shower in the form of a missed chance or an unforeseen bill. So this week, choose one small voluntary discomfort to practice. It could be walking a short distance instead of driving, passing on a routine snack, or spending an evening without digital screens. The goal is not austerity but discovery. Notice the initial resistance, and then notice the quiet strength that appears when you realize you are just fine without that particular comfort. You are not just getting through a minor lack, you are building a more resilient and self-directed version of yourself. That voice in your head that says you are not good enough, it is not the truth, it is just a thought. And thoughts are firmly within your domain. The relentless inner critic can feel like an inescapable part of you, but Stoicism offers a powerful reframe. It is not a command from on high, but a passing mental event, an impression that you have the power to either accept or reject. This is where the dichotomy of control becomes your most intimate tool for peace. You may not be able to stop the initial critical thought from appearing. That is an automatic process outside your direct command. But your assent, your agreement to believe that thought and let it shape your mood, that is an action of your will, and it is entirely within your power. Epictetus gave us the key to this inner lock when he wrote, "Remember, it is not the person who insults you or attacks you who troubles you, but the view you take of these things as troubling." You can choose not to be troubled by the inner critic, and you will not feel troubled. The difficulty only occurs when you confirm its narrative within your own mind. Picture the moment a self-critical thought arises, perhaps before a presentation. The thought whispers, "You are going to fail." This is the initial impression. The automatic, unthinking reaction is to tense up, to feel a wave of concern, to believe the prediction as if it were a settled fact. But the Stoic practice is to insert a pause. You observe the thought with detachment, as if it were a cloud passing in the sky of your mind. You might consciously replace its message with a statement that aligns with your sphere of control, saying to yourself, "I will do my best, which is all I can command." The outcome of the presentation is external, but the quality of your effort is your own. By shifting your focus from the feared outcome to the present moment action, you reclaim your inner authority from the critic's grip. For the rest of today, make a simple pact with yourself. The next time you hear that inner voice of doubt or judgment, do not argue with it or try to force it away. Simply notice it and silently label it a judgment. By naming it for what it is, a subjective evaluation and not an objective truth, you create the essential space between the thought and yourself. In that space, you will find the quiet power to choose a different, more compassionate path forward. Stoicism is not a philosophy of selfishness. It teaches that your greatest power, your capacity for reasoned choice, is a tool meant to be used for the common good. This corrects a common misunderstanding that focusing inward means turning away from the world. In reality, the Stoics saw our social nature as fundamental. While you cannot control how others act, you hold absolute authority over your own actions toward them, and you can choose to guide those actions with justice and kindness. Your duty to your community is not an external burden, but an internal commitment you make. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who carried the immense weight of leading an empire, constantly reinforced this idea in his private writings. He reminded himself, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." Your well-being is intertwined with the well-being of the whole. Your inner fortress is not a place to hide from others, but a secure base from which you can venture out to contribute with strength and stability. Think of the simple act of helping a stranger. You see someone struggling with heavy bags at the bottom of a staircase. Your internal judgment, your decision to act, is entirely within your control. You can choose to offer assistance. The outcome, however, lies in the external category. The person might be grateful, they might be surprised, or they might even refuse the help. Their reaction is not your business. Your entire focus remains on the virtue of the action itself, on the expression of kindness you are putting into the world. The fulfillment comes not from the thank you, but from the quiet knowledge that you acted in alignment with your nature as a social being. You exercise the part of the world you truly command for a purpose larger than yourself. This week, plan one small, completely anonymous act of kindness. It could be leaving a positive note for a colleague to find, paying for the coffee of the person behind you in line, or tidying a shared space without mentioning it. The entire exercise is to perform the action for its own sake, focusing solely on the doing, and then to let the outcome go. Notice the unique quality of that intention, a quiet strength that needs no external validation. In that moment, you are not just being kind, you are practicing the social duty of a Stoic, using your sovereign inner world to make the outer world just a little bit better. How do you turn philosophy into lived experience? The Stoics ended each day with a simple, powerful question. This was their method for ensuring the principles we have discussed were not just ideas, but habits etched into their character. They called this practice the evening review, a quiet audit of the day focused entirely on the distinction between what is within our influence and what lies beyond it. It transforms abstract understanding into tangible growth. In his letters, Seneca described his own nightly ritual, writing, "I make use of this privilege and daily plead my cause before myself. When the light has been removed from my sight, I examine my entire day and measure my deeds and words." He was not looking for grand achievements, but for moments of self-command. He was asking, where today did I invest my energy wisely in what I can affect, and where did I spend it on matters outside my reach? This is not about self-criticism, it is about self-awareness. Imagine a typical Tuesday. You felt a surge of impatience in a long meeting, wishing a colleague would get to the point faster. In your review, you note this. The colleague's pacing was not yours to direct, a fact you initially overlooked. Your reaction of impatience, however, was your own. You see the moment not as a failure, but as a training reminder. Later that same day, you received disappointing news about a delayed package. You felt the initial frustration, but then you paused. You remembered the package's journey was an external event. You shifted your focus to what you could manage, checking the tracking details and adjusting your expectations. In your review, you quietly acknowledge this small victory in mental clarity. The practice is this simple. Tonight, before you sleep, give yourself just 3 minutes. Ask yourself 2 questions. Where did I do well in focusing on what was truly mine to guide, my judgments and my actions? And where did I slip, spending my mental effort on things outside my influence? Do not judge the answers, simply observe them. This daily review is how you close the gap between knowing the path and actually walking it, turning each day into a deliberate step toward a more resilient and peaceful self. The core of this entire practice rests on a single mental shift, seeing every situation not as a threat, but as a training ground for your character. This is the ultimate gift of the Stoic approach to influence. It is a practical lens that reframes the small frustrations of daily life from obstacles that block your path into the very materials that build your resilience. We have walked through the major themes together, from the foundational idea of inner sovereignty, the absolute rule you hold over your own judgments and intentions, to the quiet art of shifting your perspective so that an unkind word becomes just a sound and a delay becomes a moment of practice. The profound peace we have explored comes from this steady focus on action over outcome, investing your energy solely in the effort you can command and releasing your grip on the results you cannot. The philosopher Epictetus offered a final, unifying thought that captures the freedom found in this entire philosophy. He said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You are no longer a passive recipient of whatever life delivers. You are an active participant, an architect of your inner world." So the next time a challenge arises, whether it is a difficult conversation or a sudden change of plans, I encourage you to pause, See it not as a problem to be solved, but as an opportunity to practice this Stoic art. Choose one everyday concern you face right now and share it in the comments below, telling us how you will reframe it using this tool of mental sorting. Let us build a community of shared learning, transforming our collective challenges into our collective strength.